Hi, everyone. This is Rhonda Hart with Reiki Round Podcast. I'm also known as Rep Rhonda. Um, if you would love to be on the Reiki Round Podcast, let me know. You can be a student or a practitioner, and it can be any realm of Reiki that you choose. I have a very special guest tonight with me, and so I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi, Rhonda. My name is Nancy, and I'm from Ontario, Canada. And I am a Usui Holy Fire 3 Reiki Master Teacher, mentor, coach, and creative leading light.
So, what got you started in doing? What started your Reiki journey?
Yeah, that's so interesting, how it just pops up when you're ready. My husband's firstborn from another marriage was struggling with a disease, and his second-born was looking around for Reiki and to kind of help her with her pain and ease of it all, bring a little peace to her life. So it was really introduced through his daughters. And I thought, oh, I'm going to try this. Sounds really interesting. So I went, it was in a metaphysical store in the back room. And as soon as I laid down on the table, I knew. I knew it was going to be a huge part of my life. I didn't know the details, but I knew. Claircognizant, thank you. And that's how it all started for me. Yeah. You want to know more?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. So it wasn't until 5 years later, really, that I was really engaging with it and wanted to learn it. And I went back to the same metaphysical store. During that time, his daughter had passed. She transitioned. And in the cemetery where she was, there was these beautiful mute swans. There was a pond, and we loved visiting her and walking through the beautiful. I find cemeteries really peaceful and loving. And we just kind of fell in love with these swans. And so I'm kind of saying both at the same time because they're really congruent with each other. There was the swans and Reiki. So I started my Reiki journey in 2013 as a student and went through all the levels. Meanwhile, we were going to the cemetery, and these swans were very intriguing to us. And I started giving them Reiki. And I was looking at Ted Andrews' book, Animal Speak. I wanted to learn more about the swans. So the keynote for swans is awaken your true beauty and power of self. Well, that just hit me because I thought, awaken your true beauty and power of self. That's what Reiki does. So that's what I mean by they're both the same. Actually, my logo is two swans, and in the middle, it looks like holy fire flame. So it's really cool. And the swans and Reiki really have followed all throughout the last 11 years with Reiki. I've been lucky enough to have 6 Reiki masters going through because Reiki leads the way, don't you find?
Definitely.
Yeah, I wasn't going to teach. That wasn't kind of something I took Reiki for, and that's okay. But of course, Reiki wanted me to teach. So 5 years later, I met somebody at a summer party, and she, at the end of the night, said, do you teach Reiki? Because I think you need to be my teacher. She was very intuitive, and she was guided to ask me. So without a blip, I said, absolutely, I can teach you. Meanwhile, I was freaking out on this side, but I knew Reiki would look after us. Oh, Reiki, it just really, I love how it leads the way. Before I had Holy Fire Reiki, um, my first Reiki master was giving me a Reiki session. And she was the type of master or teacher practitioner that talks throughout your whole session. She was very intuitive. She kept asking me if I worked with seniors. And I said, no, I give my dad Reiki, but no. She, she just kept repeating it. She said, do you have a brochure? She was going around when she flipped me over. She said, no, seriously, you're going to be working with seniors. You need a brochure. So get on that. So at the end of the session, she reiterated it again. I went home the next day. This is how fast Reiki can work. The next day, she got a phone call from a long-term care home who she knew the director. And they said, do you know anyone available that would like to be a comfort care coordinator? So this was with Rivera Long-Term Care. They're the only ones I know of that pay someone to come in that has some type of healing modality to care for their seniors. So there we go. The next day, a couple of months later, I was in for 6 years, right until COVID, going once a week, giving Reiki, and it taught me the most about Reiki. So you're going to ask me one of my stories. The story for the main story for me is it taught me how to do Reiki out of the box. Like nobody was telling me, there was nobody on a table giving the hand positions. It was like in wheelchairs, just sitting with them, holding their hands, giving them Reiki, having conversations. It taught me so much, the long-term care home. It took a while for the nurses to kind of accept, and they kind of wondered what I was doing. Towards the end of the last couple of years, whenever anyone was in palliative, they would send me there and I would just sit and beam Reiki to the room. And it just taught me so much, Rhonda, Reiki. And that was until COVID. And then another story is my husband passed in 2021. I'm getting back to the swans for a minute. 1 week after he passed, I went to the cemetery where we had a plot. And believe it or not, and I know you'll believe it because I have them here, there was 2 swan feathers. They're huge. They're huge. Just on the ground, right there waiting for me. It was my husband's saying, these are for you. I've never seen bigger ones. Like I go all the time and I've never seen them this big.
So
like Rick just gives so many gifts to us.
when my dad passed away, this will be 10 years this year. It's hard to believe it's been that long, but for some reason there was a box, an odd shaped box, and it was really light. And I kept saying, we can't open this, don't touch this. And it was literally the very last thing that we opened when we were finishing up clearing out his apartment. And my dad was a huge fisherman. So I opened the box and it was a box of feathers. So I don't know why my intuition just kept saying, open it last, open it last, open it last. And so what he was doing is he was making his own fly fish, but he was using the feathers to do it with. And after that, every time I doubted myself, I would find feathers that would instantly snap me out of it, because I knew that I had all these people behind me. And why did I not know that I came with an army? And why would I doubt myself? And I still, to this day, anytime I'm doubting myself, my dad always gives me a feather. It could be inside, it could be in my car, I could be in the laundromat. It literally does not matter where it is, feathers pop up.
I love that. I love that. There's always signs. And I love a box of feathers. That's so unique. Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's wonderful. Yeah, another story is just watching the students transform as they go through the levels. And honestly, like they do awaken to their true beauty and power of self and move on. And even though they're out of my life because they're Reiki masters now, some teach, some don't, they're still my colleagues and friends. And whenever there's a, whenever life throws you a curve or whatever, we have our little support group, our Reiki shares, and we always give each other Reiki and feel the love. So Reiki continues. Reiki, even my license plate says Reiki. I love it. And it's really taught me, it's also gifted me. So the first time I taught, the next day I was inspired. I get downloads of, I call them thank you downloads. They're inspirations to do something. So, yes, the inspiration can come, but you have to act on it. So, the first time I taught, the next day, I was inspired to create chakra mugs. And with Vistaprint, yeah, you have Vistaprint in the States, vistaprint.com.
Yep.
I was inspired to actually have, like, that's a blue throat chakra.
Oops.
No, that's me.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes I'm coming. That's interesting why it did that right then. Another way. There.
Here we go.
Now fuzzier because I don't have my webcam. But yeah, I was inspired to do the chakra mugs. I use them for my classes. And whenever anyone comes over for tea, they have an affirmation for each chakra. And that was a gift. I considered it a gift, saying, thank you for teaching Reiki to other people. We're going to give you this inspiration. Are you going to do anything with it? So I've found over the years that if you keep doing things, if you keep listening, they'll give you more. So during COVID, when we were doing a lot of distant Reiki, as you've mentioned before, you really get to know how the energy works with you. And I was inspired to create, I used a teddy bear to do my distant Reiki. But I knew in the back of my mind, I wanted it to be bigger. So I was inspired to make or find somebody to make what I call light beings. They're bigger. I knew I wanted them like at least 20 inches. And I knew it wanted to be white. And I wanted to put chakra buttons on them. So my friend who crochets and does all that neat knitting stuff, did a prototype for me. I think you can see her back there. And she was my first one. And now she makes them all the time. I just picked up 3 yesterday.
Oh,
And level 2 students usually buy her, or them, whatever. And they tell you during a Reiki session what they want to be called. Hi, Sage. And Sage loves the Reiki energy, obviously. And I just think Reiki really teaches you to think outside the box, because life isn't in a box. It's all over the place. I love giving Reiki at the dentist. If you can work with your dentist, I go in with my daughter, and I used to go in with my dad when he was here. I would just sit at their feet and give them Reiki, because they both really didn't like the dentist. Just grounds them, it makes them feel good, that Reiki has your back. And then I started, I got these on Amazon. They're just chakra, worry stones.
yes.
You hold it. Yeah, I got chakra ones, and I infuse it with Reiki. And now I give my daughter this if I'm not able to be with her. She sticks it in her pocket and she rubs it while she's at the dentist. So there's lots of different ways Reiki can lead the way, as I say.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It was funny because I was the same way. It took me a long time before I started teaching, and the universe literally said, "Here's 2 students you're teaching." So it was just like I honestly had been contemplating teaching, but like I just kept putting it off, and finally the universe is like, "All right, you're not getting the message. We're just gonna give you students, and you're gonna teach." And it's been awesome.
Yeah, it's a big responsibility, but I don't know whether you find this, it keeps us current.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's always in our mind. Level one, level two, Reiki master is like beyond. I love Reiki master classes. They have a whole, Reiki has a whole leadway into that. I loved William Rand is my lineage and part of my lineage. And I love his prayer that he has in his manual, the master manual. And I've really taken that to heart. I create a prayer and I put it in my Reiki grid um, before any event I'm doing. It can be a Reiki class, but it could also be a chakra insight class, which I do. Anytime people are getting together, and I'll put all their names in the prayer that he provided us, and I give it Reiki every day in the grid. And it's like it fuels the class with energy. And then when the class comes, because I'll put the date in the prayer as well, it just kind of opens up like a lotus. And all the energy is there that you've been giving it. I really like that about the classes, the prayer, very integral part. So teaching is a responsibility, but I love it because what better way to learn Reiki? Yeah.
I think the more you do it too, it also enhances everything that you do.
It does. It is a lifestyle. You know how Colleen Benelli, I'm sure you know that name through Kathy probably. That's her logo, I think, Reiki lifestyle. It is a lifestyle. It's you. We all have Reiki in us, universal life force energy. And going back to the swans again, yeah, Reiki awakens your true beauty, which we all have, and power of self. I love how the two are integrated into my life. And now that my husband's passed and my dad just passed 4 months ago, tomorrow actually, that was another thing, another story. I was taking Karuna Reiki in the William Rand lineage through, I think, my fifth Reiki master, who I met very serendipitously. Reiki arranged all that. And the next day after I took the Karuna Reiki, I woke up and I knew I was to live with my dad. My husband had passed. It had been 8 months. I just knew I was to live with my dad. He was 93 at the time, I think, 93. He lived alone. Um, I don't question Reiki anymore because I totally trust. And that's another thing. It can bring a lot of peace and calm if you can allow and trust. So I lived with my dad for 2.5 years, and he just passed 4 months ago. And now I'm in his condo where my mom was here too. So heck, they're here all the time. My husband's here. My mom and dad are here. It's a busy place. It's a very busy place. Yeah.
I've lost two cats since I've lived here, and they I always said they were my yin and yang because one was all white, one was all black. And I lost the white one first. And I had a friend come over and she was like, "Oh, when did you get that white cat?" And I was like, "I don't have a white cat." And she was like, "No, I just saw it in the kitchen." I said, "You saw the cat I used to have." And she was like, "No, it was a real cat." And I was like, "No, he's just a ghost cat." But yeah, a lot of people have saw him. It's funny how
Wow.
they stay around.
I love that. You know, the veil is so thin. We don't, most people don't realize that how thin it is. It's almost non-existent, really. I guess it is. Um, yeah, they're here all the time. Definitely. Cats, ancestors.
Oh
I
yeah.
love it. Yeah. And I guess that's what happens when you do your house clearings and such, with the veil, you know,
That's
and
one of my favorite things to do. That's honestly, I mean, I love Reiki, but making somebody feel safe in their home is like my all-time favorite.
I can only imagine because it would be a horrible feeling to be scared. Yeah. And really it's the fear that's making them scared, right? So once they understand it a bit, that's beautiful. Beautiful that you do that. Yeah. I don't know whether I have any more stories. I mean, they're coming out of my everywhere, but those were the big ones, I think, for me. Just the growth and how Reiki leads us and every one of my students. It's
So
beautiful.
do you have a website or?
Yes, it's relax, receive, rejuvenate with Reiki.com. Everything's relax, receive, rejuvenate.
And tell
Uh,
everybody where you're from again. So if somebody's in your area and they're interested.
Actually, Richmond Hill, Ontario, Canada. Yeah, I do classes mostly in person. What developed out of that Reiki, you know how we talk about the chakras in Reiki, just a little bit, just a little bit. A friend of mine who took Karuna with me, we co-created a course called Chakra Insights, so we could go one step further into realizing how important our chakras are to our well-being and within Reiki as well. So that is upcoming. We just went live today, actually, just before I came on with you, talking about that. And that's on our website as well. So, you know, I didn't know I was going to be doing that, but Reiki just wanted to dive a little deeper. Yeah. Be open, I think, to it all and see where it takes you because it really holds you in a beautiful place
It
of
does.
grace.
Well, I'd like to thank you for being on. If anybody else would like to be on the Reiki Brown podcast, just let me know. You can be a client or a practitioner of all realms. So I hope that you all have a blessed day. Would you like to say one last thing?
Oh, if you haven't tried Reiki, just try it. There's no harm. It's a beautiful, beautiful feeling, and you don't know where it's going to take you. You'll feel better. And I think everyone should try it at least once,
And
see what
Nancy,
happens.
thank you for being on the Reiki Realm podcast.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.